Overall rating. If we asked you to think of an SUV specialist, we dare say you'd immediately think of Jeep or Land Rover. What you might not know is that Mitsubishi beat both of these famous brands to the punch, building its first 4x4 back in 1936. With this and the current trend for high-rise family wagons in mind, it's no surprise to find the Eclipse Cross is another SUV to add to Mitsubishi's long history. A competitor to the Seat-Ateca, Peugeot 3008 and Nissan Qashqai, the Eclipse Cross blends a tall driving position, the option of four-wheel drive and a spacious interior with a touch of coupe flair. It does this without costing anywhere near as much as a BMW X4 or being as cramped as a Toyota CHR. Initially, the Eclipse Cross will be available with a 1.5-liter turbocharged petrol engine with 2- or 4-wheel drive. A 2.2-liter diesel will join later and come exclusively with an automatic gearbox and 4-wheel drive. We're still waiting on exact pricing and specification, but it should be competitive within the segment. Over the next few pages, we'll tell you how it drives, what it's like inside and how much it'll cost to run. Driving. Although a 2.2-liter diesel engine is on the horizon, the Eclipse Cross will launch with a single-engine option. This is an all-new 1.5-liter 4-cylinder petrol motor with a turbocharger for good measure. It produces 161 bhp and is available with two-wheel drive as a 6-speed manual or CVT continuously variable transmission automatic, or with 4-wheel drive and the CVT auto. Although that does make it punchy for what will be the entry-level engine, it has to be worked fairly hard to feel as quick as the performance figures suggest. Do this and the CVT box will allow the engine revs to soar and stay there, making for a wearisome drone. There is a manual mode that allows you to select one of 8 gears, but the shifts are slow and heavily slurred. Slow your pace and things do improve a lot. The engine is quiet at a cruise and sends little to no vibration through the car's controls, even when the stop-start system is activated. Acceleration is smooth with none of the jerkiness that you'll find from some dual-clutch automatics. Ride comfort is good for the most part, with a slightly wafty gait at speed. The only trouble is that expansion joints, ruts and other sharp-edged obstacles cause noticeable suspension noise and a jolt at times, breaking the calm. We suspect the smaller 16-inch wheels of the entry-level car might help things, though. The upshot is body roll that is fairly well contained, although it does lean over more than some rivals and feels heavier when changing direction. We've few complaints about the steering, though. At all speeds it has a meaty weighting that makes it easy to track in a straight line and to apply the right amount of lock to get around a corner without sawing at the wheel. Even so, the Seat-Ateca is significantly more agile and fun on a winding road. Interior layout. Previously, we've always found Mitsubishi interiors looked and felt rather cheap, even though they were solidly screwed together. For the Eclipse Cross, Mitsubishi has chucked away the vast majority of the old switches and stocks and started using much nicer plastics. From the tops of the doors to the dashboard itself, trace a vast amount of squishy plastic, while elsewhere there is attractive piano black trim, metal effect inserts and controls that feel a lot heftier. Yes, there are cheaper plastics, but they aren't in areas you'll touch regularly. Apart from a few oddly positioned controls, it looks and feels at least as good as the majority of mainstream rivals. We also found there to be plenty of adjustment for the driver's seat and steering wheel, so getting comfortable is easy. Our only complaint is that lumbar support isn't available, even as an option. Front visibility is good, although looking through the split-level rear window takes some getting used to. At least a rear-view camera is standard on all models. The rising bodyline does limit over-the-shoulder visibility a bit, but blind spot monitoring is optional. Mitsubishi's old infotainment system also had a date with the bin, being replaced by a 7.0-inch touchscreen that sits on the top of the dash BMW style. There is also a touchpad controller between the front seats that is actually pretty easy to use, and we found preferable to stabbing at the screen on the move. We did find the screen resolution to be a little on the fuzzy side and the menus aren't the most intuitive. It's also worth mentioning that while a DAB radio, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are all standard, a built-in sat-nav is not available. While Mitsubishi rightly say that any smartphone user will have access to navigation, this won't work if you're out of signal unless you've downloaded maps. Space practicality. The Eclipse Cross is a similar size to the Seat-Ateca, but it uses its interior space a little differently. Up front Therese loads of head and legroom, even with the optional sunroof fitted, and Therese enough width to prevent you banging elbows with your front seat passenger. Move to the back seats and assuming the sliding rear bench is pushed back, Therese plenty of legroom for adults and a decent amount of headroom. 2-3 adults might be a squeeze, but 2 should be able to travel in comfort, especially if the rear seat is reclined. The boot is, however, much smaller than you might expect for a car of this size. With the rear bench prioritizing legroom, Therese about the same amount of boot space as you'd find in a typical family hatchback such as a Ford Focus or a VW Golf. Slide the bench forwards and this does increase, but even then it's some way behind the Ateca. If you need more room, Therese an underfloor storage area while the rear bench folds in a conventional 60-40 split. With the backrest down, you'll find a bit of a step from the boot floor to the rear bench. At least there is very little in the way of a load lip in the boot entrance. Storage in the passenger compartment is dealt with by a pair of reasonable door bins up front, a shelf in front of the gear lever, a pair of cup holders and a storage box under the front armrest. Rear seat passengers have to make do with a couple of bulky door bins. Cost verdict. At the moment, Mitsubishi are yet to release pricing for the Eclipse Cross, although representatives suggest the range will start in the low £20,000 range. This is higher than some rivals, but even basic models are due to get climate control, a reversing camera, all-round electric windows, a 7.0 infotainment system with DAB radio and smartphone connectivity plus auto lights and wipers. Crucially, they will also get a raft of safety kit including autonomous braking, 7 airbags and a lane departure warning system. That should help reduce insurance costs and lead to a respectable Euro NCAP crash test score. Where the Eclipse Cross is less impressive is running costs. The 1.5-liter engine might be punchy, but the two-wheel drive manual emits 151 grams/km of carbon while the four-wheel drive auto bumps this up to 159 grams/km. Official fuel economy figures suggest you'll be lucky to get 40 miles per gallon in real-world use. Those figures might be fine for a low-mileage private buyer, but fuel costs will mount up if you do a lot of miles per year. The carbon emissions also mean net benefit in kind brick payments for business users are likely to be on the high side.